Hey everybody, thanks so much for joining us here today. This is Nicole with Topaz, and I am super excited to, for the first time, welcome Frank Doorhof. Hey Frank.
Hey Nicole, how are you?
Good. We've been having fun talking, and he is here to present different workflow tips and other secrets of his. Before I tell you a little bit more about Frank, I'm going to start this slideshow and tell you some technical information about the session if you are new to our webinars. If you have any trouble with the sound during this session, if it doesn't match up with the screen, usually logging off and logging back in, shutting down anything that might be running flash or taking up a lot of memory on your system is going to resolve those issues. If you have any trouble with your screen freezing up, usually just minimizing and maximizing your GoToWebinar viewer is going to resolve those issues. Also, if you have any questions during the session, please type them into your questions module. It's located on your GoToWebinar panel. Myself, Heidi, and Darcy will be answering those as quickly as we can, and then I will be asking Frank some of your questions during the Q&A portion at the end of his session. And with that, let me go ahead and tell you a little bit more about Frank. Frank is a highly recognized fashion and glamour photographer, and teaching has always been in his blood. He has 9 instructional DVDs, which are sold worldwide, and he teaches workshops on a weekly basis from his home studio and all around the world. In 2010, Frank was the first European photographer to join Kelbytraining, a group of the world's best instructors in both photography and retouching, which is very cool. And although model and fashion photography is a huge interest for Frank, as you can see here, he also shoots a lot of artists and celebrities. And definitely go check it out on his website. It's really all of the different artists that he shots, very interesting. That's frankdoorhof.com, and I'll give that information to you again. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Frank and let him begin telling his tips.
Oh yeah. So let me see if I can share my screen.
Okay.
And I think you now see my main screen, right?
I do.
Okay, cool. So hey guys and girls, welcome to the webinar for Topaz. And today I'm not going to share any secrets about Dutch macaroni and cheese like I just was asked on my Twitter, but I'm going to tell you a little bit about the way I use plugins. Now, one of the most important things I think is that you have to realize that you can use whatever plugin you want. However, if the image isn't there, you can't make something beautiful out of something that isn't beautiful to start with. So I'm a very, very strong believer in getting the shot and getting the shot in camera. So that's also why I use stuff like a light meter. I exactly want to have the image there, and the only thing I will do with my filtering is actually make the image to the vision that I have in my mind. And sometimes that will be a very, very slight change, and sometimes it's a huge change. And I'm going to run you very quickly through some tips. Now, the first thing that a lot of people ask me is, how do you select your images from a shoot? Well, as you can see in a moment, I don't shoot a lot of images on every location. I work with models that I actually do know, and I know how they pose and I know what to do. I very strongly believe that sometimes people will shoot for 10, 12 hours straight, and I kid you not, that's not a joke. Now, the first thing you will notice that you will get tired, but also the model will get tired. And what do you get? You get lifeless images. So what I will try to do is shoot as quickly as possible, and as soon as I know I got the shot, that's when I stop and I go to the next setup. Now, how do I select the images? Well, I have a very strange way of doing this. Now, you have to remember that there's approximately a 2-second delay between what you see and what I see on my screen. So I'll try to counteract for that. Now, what you see here is actually my desktop, and it's Lightroom. Now, when I have to select my images, the first thing that I will do is, of course, delete all the ones that are bad. Now I want to select the killer image. Now, what you see in this image is actually that I used my light from the side. The light was actually here, from the side, hitting my model. The first thing I will do is I start moving around my model and control my contrast that way. And then I will change my position. And I will very slowly build into a shot. Now, these shots are all shot in portrait mode. In this shot, I actually changed my position to a lower perspective, meaning that in the previous image, the one you see now, I hope, you see that her head is actually caught in the background. And that's not nice. I want her head to show, and I want the sky to be in the image. So what you see here is actually we have the sky. Now, portrait mode is very cool. A lot of people will shoot portrait mode because, come on, man, we're shooting portraits, right? We're model photographers. What a lot of people forget is that portrait mode is indeed very cool. However, if you change to landscape mode, the whole image will change. And as you can see here, it's much more involving. The leading lines are much stronger, and the image gets a lot more interesting. Now, how do I select the image I'm going to work on? Well, that's very simple. A lot of people will do it very slowly. They will go like, I really like this image. Yeah, cool. Then they will go to the next image, and they will go like, oh yeah, amazing, love it. Yeah, cool. And then they will go to the next one. Yeah, great. And they love all the images. Now, what I will do is actually a little bit different. I strongly believe that the best image will jump out. So what I will do is I will very quickly go through my images, and the right one will pop out immediately. There we go. This is the one that I immediately say, this is a cool one. I will do it again. And I will say, okay, ooh, really like this one. And actually, when you look at my portfolio, this is one of the images that's actually on my portfolio. So we'll do it again. Say, wow, this one is cool. So actually, in 1 second, you can see the great image. Now, this is a very important tip because sometimes people have their hard drive stuffed with images. And they have like 10,000 images from one model. How to select the best one. And if you do it slowly, you will forget the other images. If you go very quickly, the image will jump out. So let's start some retouching, because that's, of course, why you're here. Okay, so let's take this image. Now, this image was actually shot at Studley Castle in the UK during one of our workshops there. The only thing I used is a strip light, and the strip light was actually placed on the side here, and it's aimed at my model. Now, what I actually did is I cut the ambient light by approximately 1 to 1.5 stops to let my model pop out and get the rest a little bit dark. Now, this is actually the raw file you see. Some people will say, why change anything? Just leave it like this. And I agree, it's a cool image. But let's see if we can make it a little bit better. So what I will do is I will press Command A, meaning I will go into Photoshop. Now, Photoshop has to import the image, and there it is. And of course, it's a Topaz webinar, so I'm going to use some Topaz filters on this. Now, a while ago, Topaz approached me and they said, Frank, we have something that you're going to love. I said, well, I love all the plugins you use, but let's hear what you have. And they said, we have something called Clarity. I was like, oh yeah, cool, that's in Lightroom. And I love it, but it's not my favorite thing in Lightroom. What I do liked was Nick Tonal Contrast. Man, I love that filter. Well, to be totally honest with you guys, I haven't touched it in like 4 or 5 weeks. So Clarity is much better. What I love about Clarity is the total control you get from your images. Now, with Topaz, what I always do is I create a new layer because I don't want my images to be 100% the filter. And of course, you can use your masking in Topaz, but I always like to do it in Photoshop. So I will go to Filter. This is a little bug from Photoshop. Filter, go to Topaz, and go to Clarity. Now, what Clarity actually does is, I always say it's like tonal contrast on steroids, because a lot of people know tonal contrast, and it's like the secret weapon of most professional photographers. They always will tell you, no, we're not using it, but trust me, they do. Now, as you can see here, this is a pretty still normal image. Now, let's see if I can show you some stuff. When I go over these little previews, you'll actually see the image change. Now, one is called cartoon, and actually I should call that never use it again, but I use it sometimes on some street photography. But let's go for awesome. Sometimes I have trouble finding words for my plugins. What I always very strongly stress is go to 1:1. So view it 100%, because then you can really see what the filter does. There we go. And by pressing it, you can actually see it going on and off. It really enhances the image. It gives you a lot of pop. Now over here, you can change all the settings like micro contrast, low contrast, medium contrast. And because I want to do a lot in this webinar, I'm not going to explain everything to you. Just play with it. And trust me, you're going to love it. Over here, you will have your hue, saturation, and luminance. So you can also change the colors. But I don't do that. And you have your masks. And as previously explained, I will use my mask in Photoshop. So actually, I only use the top part. Press OK. And now, one of the most important things for me is I don't want to overdo my effects. A lot of people will just run everything on 100% and go totally crazy and go like, yeah, baby, cool, look at this. For me, that looks totally unnatural. I always want my images to look natural. Maybe it's also because I love vintage photography. I love film photography. And with film photography, of course, you choose your film to get a certain look. You choose your development to get a certain contrast. And I'm going through the whole process now again because I'm doing it all over again, starting at 0. Now, when you are in that kind of mindset, you very fast find out that with digital, all the files are perfect. What I'm doing in Photoshop is actually creating my own look, what you in the old times did with film or developing. And I'm doing it in the digital darkroom. Now, what I want to do is I want to start out with non-effects or with full effects. In this case, I want the effect on the whole image, but I don't want it on my model. So what I will do in this case is very simple. Say layer, layer mask, reveal all. Now there's a huge difference between reveal all and hide all. If you know you want the effect on your whole image, you do a reveal all because then you only have to paint away a little bit. If you want the effect on only a small part of the image, you do a hide all and then you paint it in. Now what you actually see here is a white piece of paper. It's next to the layer. The white piece of paper actually means it shows everything. Now, if you paint on a white piece of paper with black paint, you can actually make everything underneath disappear. Or in other words, show the original layer. And what I'm now doing is I'm actually painting back my model. Now, if you do something wrong, like the dress, you know what, I like the dress actually. So I will press X and I will go back to white paint again. Very simple. Actually, I only don't want it on the skin. There we go. Now you see the before and the after. And you see that there's a lot of pop in the image. Now, how do you get that look in your image? That's something that a lot of people ask me. Like, your images always look a little bit different. It's not like it's straight from digital. Your colors are a little bit different. Well, and this is something I have to be totally honest with you. What I always use is alien skin exposure or DxO film pack. However, this is a Topaz webinar. And maybe some people are here who want to buy the bundle and they don't want any other filters. Well, that's no problem at all because the fun part with filters, it's always personal. What fits your workflow? It's like Canon and Nikon or Sony. They are all three great cameras. But some people, they love to work with Canon, and some people love to work with Nikon. So I'm going to show you how to get a look that I normally use also with Topaz. Now, one of the things I always do is I flatten my images. Some people will say that's wrong. It's the way that I work. So let's go to, look for it, adjust. Now, in adjust, you have a lot of different options, and it's called the film collection. Now, in the film collection, you can actually browse through all these images and choose one that you like. If you want to see one, you just press it. Maybe a little bit too much. Go to the next one. Oh, this is really nice. It's a little bit painterly. Maybe this one with the magentas. I really like that, I think. That's cool. You can go through all the images. Now let's say that I really love this one, the Lomo tree. There we go. Love this one. Now, this is how you create a certain look. And of course, you can create your own looks. You can go to your global adjustments. You can go to your exposure. You can change whatever you want. You store this, you give it a name, and that's your look. Now, in both DxO Film Pack and in Alien Skin, I used a lot of my own exposure settings. I could do the same thing for the film collection. So if you buy the bundle, this is the way you do it. Of course, you can also use your local adjustments. It's a really, really nice set of adjustments you have. It's really complete. So let's press OK. It now runs the action on the image. It can take some while because we're shooting rather high resolution images. And for me, as a photographer, I think it's very important to create your own look. There are so many people online that are great, great photographers. To stand out, you really have to do something that's unique. And don't go too much overboard, but a little bit creativity like this one, it's something that I really like, and it will make you stand out a little bit more. So here you go. So this should be one of the final versions, for example. The fun part about working the structure with Lightroom and Photoshop is you can just say File, Close, and you can say Save. You go back to Lightroom, and the fun part is Lightroom actually added the image already in my library. That's cool. So now let's see what we can do more. Now, if I go to this image, you see two models, the girl and the dog. Now, let's go back to Photoshop. Now, actually, there was one guy, he said something on Twitter like, this is not a fashion shot. Well, while it's loading, I want to explain something to you guys. As soon as you start putting stuff in boxes, it's very difficult to get out of the box. With photography, I think it's very important to not think in boxes. If something is fashion, it's fashion. If something is glamour, it's glamour. I don't care what name you give it. If I label myself, I always say I'm a fashion photographer. Why? Well, I shoot models, and models actually wear clothes when I shoot them. And at that time, I think, well, you know what? It's fashion. And if it's a little bit different for you guys, no problem at all. So let's look at this image. Now, the first thing that you will notice is that there's a little bit of stuff here. Well, Photoshop has a really cool trick for that, and it's called Content Aware Fill. You just select it, you press the delete button, make sure that there's Content Aware Fill, press OK, and it's gone. Okay. Now, to speed things up, I'm going to lower the resolution of this image because this is a 60 megapixel file. And Topaz works really great with 60 megapixel files. Some filters don't work so nice. Topaz really works nice, but to slow things down, I use 60 megapixels, but this time I want to speed stuff up. Now, how do we do the skin? A lot of people will say the only way to do the skin is dodge and burn. Dodge and burn takes a lot of time, trust me. What I will do is I will first do the so-called damage control. I will use the healing brush, and I will actually use a healing brush that's oval. So it's not round, it's a little bit oval. And why? Well, very simple. You will not see the retouching that well. So it's a little bit more natural. So I will change some stuff on our face. I'll change this a little bit. And you don't have to do it perfect, you know, it's still a human being, it's not Barbie. Because if you do it too smooth, let's see what will look like Barbie. There we go. Now, one of the filters that I normally use for the skin control is image normal portraiture. It's really nice, but it's expensive. Now let's look what Topaz has to offer, because this one is also really cool. Actually, this one I use a lot on people that are not models and they have a really difficult skin. Because with the Topaz filter, it's actually much, much easier to make the skin real even. So there we go. This is actually the standard setting from Topaz. And what I use is I use skin even. I go to skin even. I'm going to show you something that I really like about Topaz that the other filter, by the way, doesn't have. With the other filters I use, I have to do a little bit more work myself. So with Topaz, I really like the way that you can add structure. So look at this. Let's go overboard. Let's have fun. Let's make her like she has to shave. Go all the way up. You see that there's a lot of detail now here, but look at the original image and this one. This is awesome, right? This saves you so incredibly much time. But let's go down in texture, because I don't want too much texture. Just want it a little bit less. There we go. Now, some people will actually not do it on a separate layer, and they will go like, you know, the selection of Topaz is really good. And that's true. However, if you look at 100% and you go to the dog, you will actually see that without the Topaz filter, the dog has a little bit more contrast. So what I will do again is use a layer mask. So go to Layer, layer mask, and in this case, hide all, because I don't want a lot of the detailing. Sorry, I don't want a lot of the filtering. So I'll take a white brush, and I will just paint in all the areas that I want my skin retouching to be on. There we go. What you should never forget is also do the hands. Sometimes you will see retouching, and they did the whole face, they did the whole body, and they forgot the hands. And that's really something that's like, that's not right. And before and after. And again, don't overdo your skin retouching. Just even the skin. That's nice. We don't want Barbie. Oops. That went wrong. Now we have something that's called in the Netherlands blackbead. There we go. Okay. Again, I will do a flatten image. Now, the next tip I already showed in some other webinars, but maybe some people are here for the first time. So I want to show you that really quick. The backgrounds, they can be a little bit nasty, right? There are a little bit of bumps here. There's a little bit of grease on your paper. So how do you clean it up really fast? You make a duplicate layer. And in the rerun, you can slow this down. But I don't know how many people saw other webinars. So I want to do it really quick, because I don't want to have it not in the webinar. This can be really sloppy, because the only thing I'm going to do is actually create a little bit of a smoothing background. Go to your quick mask to very quickly check that you don't have anything from the model in. The background can be sloppy, but make sure that you don't include anything from your model herself, like her clothing or her arms. Feather this selection. Only 3 or 4 points. Okay. Invert the selection and cut out your model. Edit, cut. Now blur the background with Gaussian blur. And do it nice. There we go. Now, on some backgrounds, this background is great. On some backgrounds, you will get Newton rings. You will get those rings that will actually show you, oh my, there's not enough detail here. I will show you all the transitions. You can solve that very quickly by adding filter, noise, add noise. Sorry. Filter, noise, add noise. There we go. Don't do 18.9, of course, but do 0.6. Or depending on the resolution of your camera or the ISO, you're shooting a little bit higher, a little bit lower. Just play with it. Press OK. Go to Edit, Cast into place, and now we have a beautiful background before and after. As you can see, this cleans up your paper very, very quickly. Now let's give this image a little bit of pop. Go to Flatten Image. And the reason I do flatten image is because I work with a lot of high resolution files, and I know that I know my workflow. If I do something wrong, I will just start over, because my whole workflow in Photoshop is maybe 5 to 10 minutes. Now if I do a composite, and I do a really complicated one, then I will of course make layer masks. I will make everything like selections that I store, and everything will be in nice folders. But normally with retouching, I want it quick, and I want my computer to respond very fast. Okay, let's go to the awesome again. And the only thing I want is I want a little bit of pop in the dog. So let's press OK. I think with my Dutch accent that really sounds weird, pop in the dog. But okay, it's processing now. And this is what I love about the clarity filter. The clarity filter actually gives a lot of pop to images, and you can do it on landscapes, you can do it on model photography. It just gives you that 3D look. You see? It's without. It's really, really cool. I said I only want it in the dog, so layer mask. In this case, hide all. There we go. Take the brush and just paint it in the areas you want it in. In this case, the dog. Maybe also Lena's hair. And a little bit here. And of course, if you want her face also to pop a little bit more, but you don't want it to go all the way, you just lower the opacity of your brush, make it really big, and just go over the areas you want popping. There you go. Okay, do that on 100%. You can see the difference. It's very, very subtle, but it changes a lot in the image. Okay. Very quick tip, by the way, about this. If you look at her hand, you can see that it's a little bit too blue compared to this part of her skin. What you can actually do is you can solve that. Let's first go to flatten my image again. Make my brush a little bit smaller and go here to mode and go to color mode. Now select a skin tone that you really like. You do that with Alt and you select. You're in color mode. Let's go a little bit lower. And you just paint in the color which you think the skin should be. And you do that a few times. And now you can actually already see that the blueness of the skin is disappearing and the skin is actually getting the correct tone. You have to be a little bit careful around shadow areas, but this is a really cool way to get the skin in the nice color that you want. Now let's overdo it, that you can see what the effect is. As you can see, I'm painting in color, but all the luminosity is still there. So here you can see that we're actually painting with colors. Okay. Cool. Now let's do something else. You all know the problem with masking, right? Yeah, I hear it. A lot of people say yes, cool. So you're interacting with me. So this is one of the models that I shot especially for masking. Now, I have to be honest, masking can be a lot of work. Now, I love Photoshop CC and Photoshop CS6 because they have amazing tools for masking. Frank, it's a Topaz webinar, right? Yeah, Topaz had something that's much, much better. Now, watch this. You're gonna love this. Go to Filter, Topaz, you go to Remask. Actually, Remask 3. Now, Remask starts, and this takes a little bit of explaining. You see that everything's green, yeah? Okay. Now, there are 3 brushes, green, red, and blue. Now, blue actually is compute. It means, well, whatever you want, just let me know, and I will compute everything you need or everything you don't need. Well, that sounds complicated, right? And if something sounds complicated, it most of the time isn't. So let's see how easy it is. I take my brush, I take my compute, I'm going through all the areas here. There we go. And I'm doing this really, really sloppy at the moment. Normally you do it a lot nicer. There we go. Now you take the fill from everything you want to lose, and yes, it's that easy. You press compute. And there we have our mask. Cool, right? Yeah, Frank, but where's the mask? Okay, you go up here, and you see that there's a split screen. Yeah, Frank, but now I see 2 masks. Yeah, correct. Watch this. Keep. Ah, now I have a white background, and I can see my mask. Well, actually, on a black background it would be better, or maybe on a green background, or a blue background, or whatever. Well, go into menu, go to set background color, and oh man, what do you want? Well, let's make it really, really nice to stand out. Let's go to a bright red. Press OK. Cool. Go to one-on-one view. Let me see where that is. There we go. And now let's say that I'm not so satisfied with the face over here, because it's a little bit over, right? Okay. So how do we solve that? Well, watch this, it's so easy. You go to the basic, and you just click. There you go. And it will just paint in the mask. Again, I did it very sloppy. Normally you have to do it a little bit better. So now let's say I do something wrong by accident. Yeah, sure. There's a lot of infection there. Okay, you go here to the cut, make it a little bit smaller, just press, and the software does the rest. You can change the color range a little bit. You can make it smaller or a little bit bigger, depending on how fast you want to work. But it will compute your mask really, really fast. There we go. Yeah, Frank, but that's easy. You shot it because you knew that you want to make a composite. Right now, What if somebody gives me an image and it isn't like this, it's somewhere in a bush or whatever? Well, no problem. Let's go to File, Close. And again, this is a very quick rundown because I only have 45 minutes. Let's take this image. Now this is actually a chance, right? There's so much going on. This will be terrible for a masking software, right? Yeah, it is. Even in Photoshop, this will take you some time. So let's do this. Here we go. Command E. Oh, sorry, we're already in Photoshop, of course. Filter, Topaz, Remask. There we go. Go to the compute brush. Go very quickly. Take the paint bucket, everything we want to lose. Normally you also do this part, but I will now skip that for time's sakes. And there we go. And you have a perfect mask. Well, it's not perfect yet. So let's go to the key part. Go again to one-on-one. You can press in both parts. That's the fun part. Here you can see that it's not so good. Here you can't see it. So let's change the background color very quickly. Let's change the background color to green. Ah, now you can see that there's some problem there. You press keep, you just press here. It will actually complete the mask. Again, normally do it a little bit slower, a little bit more careful. But you can see how very, very quickly the mask works. And it's a really nice addition to your arsenal of tools. There we go. There's a lot of other stuff in Remask, but go online, check it at the Topaz website. They have a few nice demos from Remask, but I'm really, really impressed with this one. And I'm using it a lot on my own composites at the moment. Okay, so let's do something else that's really fun. Now, we all know the shots like, let's take this one. You have the sun here. Actually, it's not the sun, it's a stroke, but don't tell anybody that. So you have the sun there, and I want to have a little bit more of a feeling on my model. I want something like a glow. Now, how do you create a glow? Well, you can do a lot of stuff in Photoshop. You can spend a lot of time on it, but actually, I like to play Call of Duty instead of being behind my computer. So what I will actually do is I will go to Filter, I will go to Topaz Lab, and I will go to, let's say, Star Effects. Star Effects, yeah. Sounds funny, right? Well, it is. Watch this. This filter, however, I have to warn you a little bit about. You have to be careful because you will go into overdrive mode before you know it. So let's start with Sparkle 1. Sounds nice, right? Sparkle 1. There we go. Cool. I love it. It's back to the 70s. But actually, it's a little bit too much for me. So let's go to the main adjustments and let's just change the luminance of everything. Actually, you're now changing the output of your sparkles. There we go. This is fun. This looks nice. Now you're saying, Frank, I like it in the hair, but please take it away from the trash cans. Can you do it in Photoshop? Yes, you can. You can do it much better. You can do a show or hide. And you just paint over it with the hide button. And like magic, they're gone. There we go. And also here, I don't like them. And here. I like them over there, so I will keep them there. But are you afraid that you miss one of the stars? Like, for example, I didn't see that one, and then later in the retouch, you see it and you go, oh, I can never take that away anymore. So there's another button here. It's called Stars Only. You press this one, and now you can actually see that you missed a few. Ah, okay. I don't like that one, and I don't like these. Actually, I don't know what this one is doing there. I'll also take that one out. And take these out. And there we go. Cool. Combined. Now see the image again. Nice. And I press OK. Now again, this was shot with only one strobe, mimicking the sun. Now what I will normally do is I will just make sure that the strobe is just in the frame. So when it fires, you will actually get that nice glow that you see on the top right corner. And it mimics sunlight. It's a really nice effect. There we go. So normally we would, of course, remove the the Ranger. And we do that also with content-aware fill. And Photoshop does it actually pretty nice, as you can see here. There we go. Well, it's the guy who made the roads was a little bit drunk, so normally we make it a little bit better, of course. Okay, I will first downsize it a little bit because I'm otherwise running out of time. Okay, press OK. Now go to Filters, go to Topaz, and go to the black and white effects. Now the black and white effects, same with film effects. It's just a very, very cool tool. And there are so many black and white converters out there. The fun part about having it all in one is that you only pay for one. So when you pay the whole if you buy the whole bundle, you have everything complete and you don't need anything else. So a lot of people ask me, Frank, where should I start? Should I start with image nomenclature, then alien skin? Should I start with NIC? Should I start with On1? For me, it's very simple. If you can only spend your money on one software package, I have to be totally honest with you guys, Topaz is the only one that delivers both film looks, the black and white, the screen softener, clarity, the glows, everything together. And of course, if you like other software better, you can always start with other software, adding that later. But if you have to have a start, I think the bundle from Topaz is really cool. So here we go, let's go to low contrast or high contrast. What should we do? Oh, I really like that. You see the previews coming in. And that's a really powerful tool because normally you have to click. I always call it the clickety-click until you see what you like stuff. But in this case, I can really just browse through it and click on when I like something. There we go. Press OK. I want to show you one more thing, and then we go into the Q&A. Time flies. Fit on screen. Go to Filters, go to Topaz, and now go to Lens Effects. Or no, first Detail 3. If there are guys out there who like cartoons, you're going to love this. Oh, sorry. This is actually for dynamic range. My bad. Sorry. I have to go to Simplify. With Simplify, you can create really nice, almost painterly-like images. And that's something that I really like. You can go to Paintings. And especially with black and white, I really like the effect that you get from some images. Now with color, you get better images sometimes. But with black and white, I really like the painterly look you get here. It's very abstract. So just squeeze this one in very quickly to show you also what this, oops, that's not nice. There we go. Okay, just cancel this one. Okay, we go to Filters, to Pass Lab, and now we go to Lens Effects. Lens Effects is really nice. What you can do with Lens Effects is you can actually create focus points on your image. Now I can't show you all, but let's start with Tilt and Shift. Now Tilt and Shift is very popular, and in fashion we use it a lot. I personally like to use the original lenses, but they are very, very expensive. With Topaz you can create it a little bit like this. You just press where you want the focus to be, and the focus changes. You can change the angle, and you can just start playing with it. But there's more. You can also, for example, do a dual focus. Now, this is really nice. What you can do is say here, next focus point, let's say here, and the other focus point, let's say here. Start your blur amount. And what you actually see is only those 2 points are in focus. You can create some really weird stuff with this, like fantasy style stuff. So that's really nice. Okay, let's go back to a color image very quickly as the final one, because I do want to show you simplify. Let's take this one. I'm always running a little bit over time, guys. Sorry for that. Image size. Let's go down a little bit. Oh, this is actually okay. This is 24 megapixel. So go to Topaz box and go to simplify. And go to 100% very quickly. There we go. And for example, take Impressionist. Now this will be not for everybody. It's something that I will probably not use, but it's something I want to show to you guys, because while I was going through this stuff, I was going like, I think some people will really like this. Let's go to Lightroom ink. Those are really nice. And for example, the cartoon. And these are really, really heavy retouching, so this will take a little bit of a while. There you go. And of course, you can play with all the settings. I'm not browsing through them so you can see them all. And again, this is not something that I will use. Maybe somebody is watching and go like, ooh, this is what I was looking for because I want the painterly look in my image. And of course, you can mix it with the original layer and create something that's really, really nice. Now, I said that I never use it, but I'm actually lying. I just realized that while I was testing this, I actually did one shot with it. So let's go to my retouched images in the studio, and let's show you what you can do when you mix it with the original layers. Because actually, these are done with Topaz. And here I mixed it with the original layer, and you can also see the focus effect that I used. Again, it's a personal taste. It's not something I do a lot, but these 2 images I tried with it and I really liked. It gives you something else. And maybe if this is your style, you will stand out because there are not a lot of people doing this. So maybe this is what you would like to do. Okay, so Nicole, I think the last 15 minutes I have to do a Q&A. So I have to stop with the demo. And are there any questions?
Thank you so much, Frank. Yes, we definitely have a lot of comments and questions. Everybody's been enjoying it, so.
I have been enjoying it too, so that's cool.
Good. All right, 1 second. Let me pull up all of our questions that we have. A lot of them are just technical, a couple technical things. Let's see here. Oh, actually, this is a great one. William asked if you employ someone to do most of the post-processing on your big jobs. And he asked, do most fashion photographers do their own post-processing?
Yep. I will never, ever hire somebody to do post-processing. We work with interns, and I once tried to let my intern do the post-processing, and it frustrated me so much that I almost killed her. So it's, you know, for me, it's the creative process. I will let somebody set up my lights, and I will drive them nuts after that because I will change my lights. And sometimes it's only a degree or 2 degrees. I think it's something in my mind that makes me go like, I want to set it the way I want it. And of course they can guarantee my gear, that's no problem at all. But by setting it up, I think I will do that myself. And the retouching the same. For me, the retouching is very quick. I don't spend more than 5 or 10 minutes on a shot. And it's that final look. So why go all the way with your lights, go all the way with styling, and then say, nah, let somebody else finish it. I think photography has to be that passion, and that's also in the retouching, of course.
Agreed. All right, we have Stu asking if you could say a few words about how you prefer to light your fashion glamour portraits, and what sort of shutter speeds do you typically use with your medium format cameras?
Okay. Hi, Stu. Well, this is difficult. A lot of people email me and they say, what's your favorite modifier? What's your favorite lens? What's your favorite camera? What's your favorite light setup? I think that the first thing you have to start realizing is there is no favorite. What I said in the beginning, if you start thinking in boxes, you will never get out of the box. So if you start thinking about light setups, let's say you know 3 light setups, very, very, very simple. Let's say 45-degree beauty dish with a grid. That's light setup 1. Light setup 2, 2 strip lights from the side. 1 filling light minus 2. That's light setup 2. Light setup 3, big 150 octa on the model and let her jump. Cool. So now I have 3 light setups. The problem is that if you start doing it with those 3 light setups, you will actually, but with every job, you will start thinking, is it the light setup 1, 2, or 3? Now, as soon as you start noticing that light is actually fluid, light is like liquid, you can do whatever you want with it. You can throw with it, you can turn it the other way, you can do whatever you want with light. You can control your contrast, you can control your ratios. Start thinking of light as a model. You can model it every way you want. You can make her stand with her back against you, but you can also turn her around. As soon as you start realizing that, you will also start to realize that while you normally would use 2 or 3 strobes, you would maybe now only use 1. Or when you're outside, you will think, well, I need strobes. And then you start realizing, why should I need strobes? There's a sun. That's the perfect light source. And then, in the end, you will start realizing, okay, now I can start working with ratios. Now, one of the things, and this is a little bit too technical maybe, but I will say it anyway. Some people ask me how to meter light. Well, I meter always, and I tell my students to meter towards the light source, unless you're outside. Now, imagine this. You have the sun behind your model. If you meter towards the light source, you would be actually metering towards the sun, meaning the front of her face will be totally underexposed. If you want the sun to give a nice halo effect around the hair of the model, think about the 70s album covers. You meter towards the camera, or in other words, you meter towards the camera for the diffused value, meaning the face of the model in this case. Now what will actually happen is that you overexpose the accent light, which is now actually the sun. So you're actually metering ambient light. Now, this will confuse some people, of course, because they are still in the mindset of using 3 or 4 strobes. As soon as you start thinking not about strobes, but only about light as a being, and you can control everything with your light setups, I think the whole question about what is your favorite light setup will actually be the light setup that works. Sometimes it's 1 strobe, sometimes it's 10, and sometimes it's just natural light. And trust me, the most beautiful images are created with just natural light. So I think I forgot something in his question, so can you repeat the question? Oh, the shutter speeds.
Yes, for the medium format cameras.
Now, when I shoot outside with medium format cameras, the fun part is I have a leaf shutter lens. So I can shoot up to 1/1600th of a second with strobes. That's actually not 100% true. I can shoot up to 1000, and then I'm starting to lose strobes. Why? Because I'm using A heads on my Allen-Chrome, and those are the really fast heads. As soon as I start shooting with S heads, those are the standard heads, then I can go up to 1250. You can go up to 1/1600, but you will actually lose a little bit of exposure, and that's really difficult to explain. But I can go up to 1/1600. What I will do is I will first calculate what I need. I will calculate the ambient light, I will calculate strobes and the ratio that I want. If I want day to night, I will have to overexpose. I have to overpower the sun. If I want fill-in flash, I need a little bit less. Now, the fun part about using those really, really high shutter speeds is that you can actually shoot with a very wide aperture and still have day to night. So, for example, you can pull it off to shoot on f4 and have a day to night shot. Now, with the DSLR, you can also get high shutter speeds, but then you need the Pocket Wizards, TT5, TT1, and go into hypersync mode. But I have to be totally honest with you, a friend of mine, Tom Ball, he does it great. He has some great images with it. I never got with a 5D Mark II. I never got above, let's say, 1/1200 with a D light. And Tom is doing 1/8000th of a second, I believe, with a certain Nikon camera. So your mileage may vary. But that's what I do with the shutter speed. And again, it's not really about shutter speeds and lighting. It's about the vision you have and how to get there. So I hope that concludes that question. Yeah?
Yes, it definitely does.
Just keep them coming, Nicole.
Okay. James asks, which Topaz program does Frank use most often and why? And he says, great webinar.
Thank you so much. Clarity, without any doubt. Clarity is something that struck me. I always had, I get a lot of the plugins from people. Frank, will you try this? Will you try that? And I have the whole Topaz bundle on my computer. And sometimes I will just delve into the Topaz bundle and I will go like, I have those periods, when I use the skin softening only from Topaz because I love the textured control. Then I will go into something like, oh, you know what, I'm going to use Imagenomic now. And those two are really great. Or I will use Nick Color Effects for something. And when they gave me Clarity, it was like, I was thinking, you know what, I'm so used to tonal contrast, I will use it next to tonal contrast. And actually within a day or two, I was totally going like, you know what, I'm never going to touch tonal contrast anymore. Because if you go to stuff like smoke, or I really have to show you this very quickly, I hope Nicole will allow me this.
Absolutely.
And, oh, thank you. And now, normally when I do smoke, you see that the smoke is a little bit fluffy, and it's cool, but it's just not, it doesn't have that kabam. So when you go to Clarity now, and you go to Topaz Clarity, and you go overboard, and that's why I have a cartoon setting. Watch what it does for the smoke. And now when I do this with tonal contrast from Nick, and again, I love the guys at Google and Nick, so don't get me wrong, but somehow it just doesn't look like this. It's harsher, it's a little bit more digital, there's a little bit more halos, and the Topaz software is, that's why it struck me so much, is from Clarity I expected something like tonal contrast, and they actually put it on steroids. So there's one Topaz filter that I actually really use in almost all my images, it's Clarity. The other ones I really like is Remask, and I love the lens effects and the stars. So those are the two I really like. And of course the skin smoothing. And the skin smoothing I actually use a lot on our, how do you call it, normal people. That sounds really weird. Not the models. The models, they all have makeup, the models look great, they have good skin. But of course we also shoot families. And now with families, the skin work from the Topaz is actually really cool. So watch this. And now the only thing I do is I will just paint the effect in only on the smoke. Let's see the difference it makes. It really makes the smoke stand out. And that's what I love about Clarity. And Clarity is used on all my fashion shots at the moment. Even if I'm in time loss, I will, because it takes you a little bit of time to do it, I will just go like, it just doesn't look right without Clarity on it at the moment. It gives that extra pop. So Clarity without any doubt. Okay, any more questions?
Okay, here you go. Pierre says, before shoot, how much time or how much do you think about what you will do in your post-processing, or do you just let it come to you as you go along in the post-processing of it?
Ooh, that's a difficult one.
Good question, right?
Yeah. Sometimes we go in, eyes closed, then I bump my head, of course. But we will go in totally unprepared. We will just go and we'll see what happens. Sometimes we start planning actually a year ahead. So we have been planning some shoots that were actually a year in planning. Like we did a photo shoot, and let me see if I can find it, because you're actually showing my screen now. And this is always the fun part, because now we're going into slow mode. Because I have to wait for the slideshow to start. Okay, here we go. So, like when we look at an image like, I have to find it really fast. I'm sorry, guys. Let's see where it is. Okay, first this one. Now, these with the DeLoreans, this is Nadine, by the way. This is actually very funny. The guys called me and they said, Frank, do you want to shoot DeLoreans? And my answer was, is the world round? In other words, yes, of course. What's a stupid question? And they actually said, okay, so you will be there. I said, yeah, of course. Can I bring a model? Yeah. Well, what would a model be doing? I said, well, no porn. So she will be there just in nice clothes. Oh, Like a bikini? No, 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 not a bikini. Actually, they only wanted to give me one DeLorean because the other owners all said, you know what, no messing with my car with a model, and you can make a picture of it, but no, I don't want models in my car. When Nadine came out in these clothes, whenever you're in the Netherlands and you need a DeLorean, just call me because we have 25 on order at the moment. Everybody wants to loan their car now to me. Now, the preparation for this shot, now guess. I hear 5, I hear 10, I hear 20, make it minutes. Literally, Nadine only heard me saying steampunk. And she just threw something together. The next day she was there and we did the shoot. So that was a very, very quick preparation. No preparations beforehand. I didn't see the clothing until she walked out on the set, and that's it. Now let's go to something that took us a year to plan. I have to find it. Here we go. Now, one of the things I said, I will never ever shoot on a cemetery. For the very simple reason, I think you have to have respect for the people that are there. But I'm a very huge fan of all-time horror movies like the 70s and the 80s. I love those movies. So when Stephanie, in this case, this is our model, sent me the mood board for these images, I was going like, you know what? Yeah, but we have to prepare this. It's a location shoot. I have to have a permit. And now some people who live in the Netherlands will actually now say, Frank, you don't need a permit for this. I know. In the Netherlands, we can shoot on a cemetery without permits. Why did I want to have a permit? And this is a tip that actually can benefit you guys. If you shoot on a location without a permit and it's a cemetery, I know for sure people will come by. What are you doing? Don't you have any respect? Why? Go away. Well, I can shoot here. It's legal, whatever. And, you know, guys, prevent this. Go to your local townhouse and just say, I don't know if townhouse is the correct expression, by the way, but I think you know what I mean, the county. Just ask a permit. Even if they say you don't need one, ask one. Because as soon as we started shooting and we started using the smoke, people came by, what are you doing? The first thing I did is very simple, explain, show them the permit from the authorities. And they said, okay, then it's cool. And they just walked by. Now this one took a year in planning. Why? Because the model didn't have time, I didn't have time, and we wanted to have everything complete. Now something like this is a whole series. We actually call this the pinup series. It's a cool series, right? Now planning a series like this takes a lot of time, right guys? Well, I will tell you a little secret. This is Marie, and Marie actually did a photo shoot with me. And Marie is one of our main model, one of our regular models. In the end, we had like half an hour left. And we were sitting in our garden. This is all shot in our garden. And she was going like, you know what? Do you have a lawnmower? I said, yeah, of course we have a lawnmower. Can I get the lawnmower? Yeah. She changed very quickly into this. We took some strobes out. Actually, this was shot with 3 strobes, and I took this shot in literally 10 minutes. Then she said, oh man, this is cool. I said, you know what? We also have a vacuum cleaner. Let's put it outside. Oh yeah, I'm going to use a shirt and a bra, whatever. And we shot this image. Also, maybe 5 or 10 minutes, same light setup. Then she saw the barbecue and she's a vegetarian. She said, you know what, I have another outfit. She threw it on. We had a little bit of fun with the smoke machine. And eventually she watered my plants. The whole photo shoot took half an hour. Totally unprepared. We used all the clothing that she still had left. And it was done. Sometimes you plan, sometimes you just go with the flow. And then you have to be in that creative mind. Some people I talk to say, I haven't shot for a month and I have so much problems getting into that mood again. Never ever shoot, don't shoot long periods on non-active. I just had surgery on my knee for my meniscus. I had to lie 2 weeks on the couch. I hated it. I was so glad that I could go out, and the first thing I took out was my camera, because I want to shoot. And I think a photographer, if you ask a photographer what drives you to be a photographer, some people will say, well, it's a job. Those are not the photographers that will survive. Photography is passion. You have to be passionate about it. You have to find your expression. You have to find your vision. And as soon as you're in that mindset and you have half an hour left, you see some clothing, you will actually say to your model, okay, well, let's try this. And then you can get some stuff that looks like it's totally planned, but it actually isn't. So sometimes a long time, sometimes very, very short.
Cool. Thanks for that. A lot of
like
people
for
are
example,
enjoying those.
For example, this one. Do you know what this is, Nicole?
No. Scary
Yes.
wedding dress?
Nope. These are actually garbage bags.
Oh, interesting.
We, yeah, we made a dress out of that. So I'm going to do a pop quiz with Nicole now. Nicole, do you know what this is?
Oh, goodness. The image hasn't popped up yet on my screen. Oh, okay, there it is. Tinfoil?
Do you
No.
see the red image now?
Oh, I see it. Oh, it's wrapping paper.
Yes, Christmas wrapping paper.
That's cool. Now that I'm
Cool,
actually
right?
looking at it. That's cool.
A lot of people think that styling will take a lot of out of your budget, but actually when you have a creative mind, like Nadine in this case, she will actually create stuff from absolutely nothing, like garbage bags or in this case, Christmas wrapping paper.
That's great. Now, that picture that I posted on Facebook of that beautiful red dress, was that wrapping paper too?
Let me
The one that
see,
had
which
all
one
the
do you mean?
smoke. It was, well, it's like red smoke with a
Oh
really
yeah, I know which one you mean. No,
long
that was
red dress.
actually a dress that Nadine made. Do you see the robot now, by the way?
Mm-hmm.
This is all cardboard.
Oh my gosh.
We threw it away after the shoot. I think you mean this image that will pop up in a few moments.
I think that was probably part of the series, but it had those kind of fans all over the dress. Those the
Oh,
fans that you were just
yeah,
showing me.
that was actually wrapping paper too. That was a shot from Manon. This one.
Yes, that's the one.
This is created during one of our workshops. It's called Creativity. And what we actually do in that workshop is we work together with the students, the model and the stylist into creating outfits from €0, 25 euros and 50 euros. And this shot actually, all the students helped creating all the fans on the model. So and we do that workshop, the creativity workshop, we do once every 2 or 3 months. And every workshop is different. So I teach normally twice a week in our studio, and the creativity workshops is once every 2 months or 3 months, depending on people who are registering for this workshop, because it's a higher end product, so less people register. And they actually create all different looks every time. So yeah, you can go so far with creativity and junk like paper.
That's really cool. All right, I'm going to ask a couple more questions, and I'll let you go. Susanna asked about whether you find clients prefer natural photos versus this more dramatic type of work that you do, the majority of your clients.
It really depends on the client. We always say we do everything. In May, we opened a new studio and educational center in Emmeloord, our hometown. And we actually now even do passport images. And it's something I always said I will never do, but we wanted to show people that we are really a one-stop studio. A lot of people just know me from the celebrity stuff, the workshops, and everything else. But what they don't realize is that we also do families, we also do weddings. And when you do families, some people will come in and they will go like, okay, Frank, I want a shot like this. I want a shot that's really quirky with a wide angle lens, nice lighting, or I want a high contrast images where I'm in the spotlight. And some people will just say, you know what, I want a mom and pop image. And what I mean by a mom and pop image is just one softbox, a neutral background, and just shoot the image. And look into the camera, give a little bit of a cheesy smile, and that's it. And some people go all overboard. And the fun part is, as a photographer, Dean Collins said it very well. He said about the art directors, and I just saw that film clip this afternoon again. He said, you know what, the art director will always say, I like it a little bit more like this and a little bit more like that. As a photographer, you can of course argue with your art director from, yeah, but I exposed it this way and this is correct. He said, the art director is always correct because he is the checkbook. And my client is always correct. If my client wants a, in my opinion, standard image, I will shoot a standard image. If they go, well, Frank, I want to go all overboard, and I want to have a hairstylist and whatever, we'll shoot with a hairstylist, whatever the client wants. But in my free work, I will go a little bit more for the extreme stuff, because that's what I really, really like.
Okay. Well, I think that's it. Everyone has really enjoyed this session, so I just want you to know we've had a ton of great feedback. And thank you very, very much for being here today with us. This was a great first.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Again, if you want to keep an eye out for maybe Frank's upcoming session or any upcoming webinars, you can take a look at our webinar calendar at topazlabs.com/webinars, and you can sign up for our newsletter at topazlabs.com/list. All right. Thank you again, everybody, and we'll be talking to you next week sometime. Bye, Frank.
Bye, Nicole. Bye, guys.